Hello everyone, Weekly Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the Caribbean. It is Wednesday evening, January 11th, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Also, feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. I respond to all comments and I really live for this stuff. Alright, so before we jump into it, let's talk about the various parishes across Jamaica according to their various locations. So when we're talking about northern parishes, you know that we're referring to those such as Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary and Portland. While when we're referring to southern parishes, we're talking about parishes such as Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine, Kingston, St. Andrew and St. Thomas. While when we're talking about eastern, central and western parishes, we're referring to the parishes across Jamaica according to their various counties. So eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, such as Kingston, St. Andrew, Portland and St. Thomas. Central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, such as St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon and St. Catherine. While western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, such as Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth. So in the future, if you ever hear us talking about northern, southern, eastern, central and western parishes, these are what we're referring to. Alright, so let us take a look at the significant feature map across the Atlantic for this evening. We can see that the Atlantic is still being dominated by that high pressure ridge right there to the northern portion of North Atlantic, sending a lot of easterly winds all the way across the main development region into the Caribbean region. We can also see a cold front affecting portions of the eastern United States that's induced a trough into portions of the Bahamas. And we can also see another cold front right there stretching all the way from the northern portions of North Atlantic all the way down to the north of the eastern Caribbean, and it has induced a trough right there stretching all the way down into portions of northern Puerto Rico. And if you actually take a look at the satellite images, we can see the clouds associated with that cold front right there off the United States east coast, and we can also see the clouds associated with that cold front that has induced the trough right there to the north of Hispaniola and Puerto Rico. And if you actually look close enough, you can see all of that easterly low level clouds being pushed from east to west by that high pressure ridge. Alright, so let us talk about what happened today across Jamaica. For the most part, it was a partly cloudy day, especially across northern Jamaica. In the afternoon, we had a buildup of clouds across portions of southern Jamaica, so portions of maybe St. Catherine, Kingston and St. Andrew, portions of Manchester and St. Elizabeth, as well as Westmoreland, got in some amount of cloud cover and showers. And if we actually take a look at the infrared satellite images, we can see that we had some high cold cloud tops right there up in the upper levels of the atmosphere in southern St. Elizabeth and Manchester, and as you can already see, there were some amount of sparkling white dots that represent some amount of lightning strikes and lightning flashes. So they got some afternoon thunder showers in the afternoon hours. And if you actually take a look at the Doppler radar images, we know that Doppler radar images show the actual rainfall as opposed to satellite images that show the cloud cover. We know that we can have cloud cover over an area and not necessarily rainfall. And as you can see, we had some amount of greens and yellows that represent moderate to heavy rainfall across portions of the same areas that were just mentioned, portions of southern St. Elizabeth and Manchester. And if we actually take a look at the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology, excuse me, Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website, the aggregated precipitation in millimeters, as we already know, aggregated is the accumulated precipitation. So this is showing all the rainfall that fell from morning up until this point in the evening hours. So portions of northern Jamaica got in on some amount of rainfall in the morning, and then in the afternoon we had that buildup of clouds across portions of southern Jamaica. So the very same spots that were just mentioned, portions of Kingston and St. Andrew and St. Catherine, portions of St. Elizabeth and Manchester got in on some amount of rainfall, up to even 50 millimeters of rainfall in some spots. Alright, so let us talk temperatures for tonight. You can actually pause this video at this time to check out your specific area and what the temperatures are like right now. We can see that we have a 24 degrees Celsius in Kingston for tonight, as well as Montego Bay. Alright, so let us talk temperature forecast for tomorrow. So these maps are showing 18Z on Thursday, that's about 1 p.m. on Thursday, and both maps are showing average temperatures in a sense. And if we actually take a look at the average temperature maps for the year, January we usually get 86 degrees Fahrenheit, and if we actually calculate that on the thermometer, 86 degrees Fahrenheit is about 30 degrees Celsius, so that is what's in store for tomorrow. Speaking of temperatures, a post was made on our Twitter page today. It stated a cold front is predicted to bring its cold, windy and or wet weather to portions of Jamaica and the Caribbean starting this Sunday, January 15, 2023, which will continue into the work week. Get ready for that sweater weather, as temperatures could dip 5 degrees Celsius below average. And if you actually take a look at the images right here, we can see that by Saturday evening, the cold front would be somewhere right here in portions of the northwestern Caribbean, and more than likely by the next 120 hours, that's the next 5 days, just like what the US National Hurricane Center would show on Monday, this is where the cold front should be, so portions of the central to eastern Caribbean, and this is all of the cool air that is coming with that cold front. So we can expect anywhere from 1 degree Celsius to 5 degrees Celsius below average temperatures. We're not talking about freezing temperatures though. So if the average temperature for the month would have been 30 degrees Celsius, more than likely the high temperature for that time when the cold front is expected to be here would be anywhere from, let's say, 24 to 27 degrees Celsius. And usually the nighttime temperatures are cooler than the day, so if we're used to 24 degrees Celsius at nighttime, more than likely we're going to be getting in on anywhere from, let's say, 16 degrees Celsius to about 21 degrees Celsius. So those persons in Manchester especially, get ready for a real cool down coming up next week. Alright, so let us talk about the Saharan air layer map. So we can see that all of the dry air associated with the Saharan dust will be across portions of the main development region, and portions of the central and eastern Caribbean should be in the clear for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Alright, so let us talk wind forecast across Jamaica for tomorrow. We can see that we're going to be having an easterly flow of winds across the entire island, anywhere from 10 to 15 knots across the island, and we can see that the darkest blues are showing where all of that air will be piling up, or where we have the least amount of wind. So portions of southern Jamaica will be having the least amount of winds tomorrow. So more than likely all of that air will be piling up and forming some amount of clouds to bring some amount of afternoon convection. And with the wind shear map coming in somewhere from the west to west south to west northwest kind of fashion, more than likely the south coast will be biased to having more of the rainfall as opposed to the northern portions of the island during the afternoon. Alright, so let us talk precipitation forecast for tomorrow. We can see where by 3 p.m. tomorrow we have some amount of blues across portions of northern Jamaica. 3 a.m. tomorrow we have some amount of blues across portions of the northern coast of the island, especially Portland and St. Mary. And if you actually take a look at the GFS model, we have consensus there at 3 a.m. Looking ahead, 6 a.m. we still have some amount of blues across portions of northern and eastern Jamaica on both models. Even up to 9 a.m. we have something similar. So we have some amount of rainfall to receive across portions of northern and eastern Jamaica on Thursday morning. During the afternoon, however, that rainfall on northern Jamaica would have dissipated by that time. So now we're starting to see more blues across portions of eastern, central and western Jamaica during the afternoon at 3 p.m. And if we actually take a look at the GFS model, we see something similar with that. If you actually take a look at the accumulated precipitation forecasts for both the Euro and the GFS models, we can see that yes, we have some amount of rainfall being predicted for tomorrow, with most of the concentrated amount of rainfall being across portions of northern and eastern Jamaica, indicated by those darker greens and yellows on the euro that signal up to 0.31 of an inch of rainfall, and on the GFS something similar. So especially persons in eastern Jamaica, so St. Thomas, Portland, St. Mary, there's some amount of rainfall that's expected tomorrow. And that green across portion of southern central Jamaica, that's for the afternoon as expected. So it makes sense that a post was made here stating that there's going to be some amount of rainfall across portions of northern and eastern Jamaica on the morning of Thursday, and then spilling into portions of central and western Jamaica during the afternoon. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let's talk quickly about the rest of the Caribbean. So we see more of a southeasterly flow of clouds across portions of the eastern Caribbean. We have more of a northeasterly kind of flow across portions of Central America, including Panama, Costa Rica, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Belize. We also have some amount of clouds right there at the northern coast of South America, so Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana. And if you actually take a look at the Doppler radar images, as you already know, Doppler radar images show the actual rainfall in a specific area, as opposed to satellite images that only show clouds. And when we put these Doppler radar images across portions of the Leeward Island into motion, we can see some amount of light, moderate, and heavy rainfall across portions of Puerto Rico, the British and US Virgin Islands, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. John's, Guadeloupe, Dominica, even up to recording hours. We have some amount of rainfall across those areas. Moving on to the Barbados radar, we can see some amount of isolated rainfall affecting portions of Barbados, some of the rainfall to the north and south of the island as well. So we can also see some rainfall affecting portions of, let's say, St. Vincent, St. Lucia as well, even portions of the south coast of Tobago getting on some of that as well. And if we actually take a wider view at the Doppler radar images, we can see yes, portions of Belize, Guatemala, and Honduras getting in on some amount of rainfall, portions of Guyana, French Guyana, and Suriname getting in on some amount of rainfall as well. And if we actually take a look at the Saharan dust forecast for tomorrow, more than likely all of those browns that represent Saharan dust and some amount of hazy skies will be affecting portions of Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guyana as usual. And this map is showing up to 2 p.m. on Thursday. Alright, so let us talk wind forecast for tomorrow. You can see that we're going to be having more of an easterly flow across the entire Atlantic and Caribbean basin, anywhere from 10 to 20 knots on both the Euro and the GFS. And we know that when we have consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so there seems to be some amount of consensus in where it will actually be raining for tomorrow. Both the Euro and the GFS are in agreement that there could be some amount of rainfall anywhere from 0.1 of an inch of rainfall up to an inch of rainfall across portions of Honduras and Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, portions of Guyana, French Guyana, portions of eastern Venezuela, portions of eastern Cuba, portions of Hispaniola, especially northeastern Hispaniola, portions of Puerto Rico, sections of Antigua and Barbuda, portions of Dominica, Martinique, sections of, let's say, Grenada and St. Vincent, and both maps are showing something similar. And we know that when we have consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Not so much in the way of rainfall for Trinidad. Trinidad only some slight greens. GFS not so robust with that. Venezuela for the most part is in the clear, and just as predicted, rainfall across Jamaica not so much, but it is there in a sense, especially northeastern Jamaica. Cayman not so much. Alright, so let's just take a look at the western portions of the basin. So yes, portions of Belize, especially southeastern Belize, will be getting in on some of that rainfall. Honduras and Guatemala as well, and both models are in agreement with that. Portions of Mexico not so much. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.